leadership without touching lives, without making impact, without positives is no leadership. Great leaders will make great managers. We need managers who are great leaders, and we need great leaders who are also great managers. Leadership is not just about leading other people. Pretty much it first starts from leading yourself. Going into management for me was first as a result of my background of leadership. My background leading small groups, which I would always also say that those small roles, those small positions that you are privileged to hold now, they really do matter, and you should really do put yourself into it.
Management has to do with, you being in charge of people, like you have people around and everything, and that is basically what you do.
Exactly.
So how has that helped you to build or increase your leadership experience in a way?
And one of the very key examples, very key lessons that management has taught me, first is empathy. And I think that's one key thing to take out of my own experience of management, having to care truly for people. People want to know that you care. And I think that's also important for a leader. I've seen great organizations. I've worked with great teams. I've been in great gatherings that I've seen that the best of leaders are people who hold no positions.
Okay, so in my own opinion, I believe that there is a balance, or there's a difference between leadership in itself and management.
Sure.
All right, so can you tell us if you believe that there's a difference, can you tell us what the difference is? Good day, leaders. Welcome to another episode of Beyond Pointers, Leaders Unfiltered Stories. Here we learn about leadership through storytelling. I am so excited to be here again, as this is going to be the first video podcast. All right, and I have with me here a very profound speaker, and his name is George Ayomipo. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for the invite.
All right, so as we start, God starts with us and his name is glorified. Amen. All right, so as we just proceed, George, I just want you to give us a little bit of introduction about yourself.
All right, my name is George Ayomipo, and permit me to first appreciate the privilege to be on this. Given that it is the first, I consider it more of an honor to even be the first coming on this. So thank you very much. I won't take it lightly. So who is George Ayomipo? And that sounded so familiar because I remember when I was going to run for an office one time, my first line was, who is George? Okay, so who is George? Yeah. Career-wise, I am a product and business development manager. I like to say that I work across leadership and management, where I hope to build great people, great products, and great processes. That pretty much summarizes all of who George Ayomipo is.
All right. Thank you very much, sir, for the introduction.
Thank you.
So, moving on, I just want you to tell us what your definition of leadership is.
Well, I think that it might sound cliche, but yes, just like we say, right? Cliches are cliches because they are true. And what leadership is might mean different things to different people, depending on the office you hold or what sort of leadership you play in. But I think holistically, we could say leadership is influence and leadership is impact. Influence because it really would always involve you having to have decision and having to guide people even as regards their own personal life. And that exactly is what influence is. And impact because, leadership without touching lives, without making impact, without positives is no leadership. And pretty much I would like always to say also that leadership is not just about leading other people. Pretty much it first starts from leading yourself. Have you been able to lead yourself? Are you able to understand your own emotions, your own mindset, why you are doing the things you do, pretty much. So like I said, leadership is influence, leadership is impact, and leadership is also understanding your own self, leading your own self.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so in your introduction, you mentioned that what you majorly do has to do with leadership and management. All right, so can you just run us through how you actually got into that management of a thing?
Okay, so I'll just pretty much tell a quick story. So for me, right, I've been privileged to be able to work within teams from a very young age. Growing up in a Baptist church, having to be part of numerous organizations, I was privileged to take on leadership roles quite very early. I mean, I was general secretary of Royal Ambassadors as early as age 9. And that pretty much created the trajectory of everything I currently do. Why? Exactly because, I mean, looking back at those years, it wasn't, I didn't exactly understand what it was, right? I didn't exactly understand this was what I was doing. Like, I didn't exactly understand, oh, maybe I'm even being called into leadership.
Yeah.
But I took those roles, I poured myself into it. And over time, I saw that I was handed over more responsibilities.
Yeah.
I was given more roles. So I transitioned from being general secretary at a point to become president, to then become president. I mean, across different associations first. I mean, as a youth, very young child. But growing up, I mean, I then started to realize that, oh, I think this is beyond me just my personal love or wanting to do this. I think there is more to this. So I took it intentionally. I started to read books. I started to want to learn more about leadership. And that showed me the management part of it. So oftentimes I would say that leadership is, just like I said, influence and impact. Management is systems and implementations. So management would often mean that you create interesting processes, I mean great processes for things to be done and execute these things. High level excellence. I would always say I am someone that gone for excellence a lot, right?
Yeah.
So going into management for me was first as a result of my background of leadership. I mean, my background leading small groups, which I would always also say that those small roles, those small positions that you are privileged to hold now, they really do matter, and you should really do put yourself into it,
Very.
because pretty much some of the skills we pick up alongside, whether noticeably or unnoticeably, are putting us up for greater responsibilities, greater benefits, I mean, also, right? So for me, it was doing those few, however small, leadership roles so well, then it opened me up to other parts, I mean. And from there, I was able to clearly get direction as to say, this can be positioned into management also. So I took it as a career path, continuing to learn, gain relevant experience across board, and pretty much launched me into my management career at the moment. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, sir, for that response.
Thank you very much.
Okay, management has to do with, you being in charge of people, like you have people around and everything, and that is basically what you do.
Exactly.
So how has that helped you to build or increase your leadership experience in a way? Can you just like maybe give us an instance or a story to just talk about that?
Okay, so for me, right, and like I said, I like to summarize everything I do under 3 core pillars, which I see as my own mission, which is to build great things across people, products, and processes. And one of the very key examples, very key lessons that management has taught me, first is empathy. Just yesterday, and talking about stories, just yesterday, I work as a product manager, just like I explained yesterday. Just yesterday, I was on a product call with some of my engineers, and we were closing out for the year. It was our last meeting for the year, and we just had everybody speak about how it has been through the year and whatnot. And some of the reviews, some of the feedbacks were not things exactly I would have anticipated. People talking about how that we know why this is work. We appreciate how much you care about us beyond work, right? And I think that's one key thing to take out of my own experience of management. People want to know that you care. Yeah. Even when management is about outcomes, it is about results. The result over anything. People want to know you care. People want to see the empathy side of you. So for me, the biggest lesson I've been able to take out from my management career that cross borders on what I also do around leadership is empathy, having to care truly for people. And I think that's also important for a leader.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so in my own opinion, I believe that there is a balance or there's a difference between leadership in itself and management.
Sure.
All right. So can you tell us what, if you believe that there's a difference, can you tell us what the difference is? Difference between leadership and management?
Also, first off, I think I touched on it very quickly, I glazed through it while I was speaking earlier. So pretty much management is systems and implementation. So what that exactly means is, if I'm a manager over, let's say, a multinational company, which I will be, pretty much what is required of me, what are my, I don't want to use the word KPIs, but yeah, what are my KPIs are maybe the business goals, there are the structure, the culture we've been able to build within the organization. That's sort of cut across leadership also, right? Because I think great managers, great leaders will make great managers. Maybe a few exceptions, right? Because again, leadership management really borders on results. I mean, you don't want to trivialize the business goal because you care too much about about people. That's really, although you have to care about people, but the goal before anybody, the goal before anything. If someone, however good, however friendly, is standing in the way of the organization's business goal, from a management perspective, the person has to go. Well, the person has to go, because it stands opposite, counterintuitive to the organization's goal. But for a leader, right, which I think that are quite also synonymous, what exactly a leader wants to achieve is to see how I can better that particular person. I mean, the impact I can have on that individual's life beyond the beyond the overall goal, which is maybe whatever I want to achieve, but I'm more concerned about impact. Are people benefiting from me leading them? Are people, and another thing about leadership again is, I mean, we have, and I think they are distinct, but the cuts, they overlap at so many points. Because again, you need a leader to be able to sell a vision. And that's like another very key trait of who a leader is. A leader is someone that can motivate people to do things. A leader is someone that can gather people to say, this is achievable. I think we can go for this particular goal, this particular objective. A manager is someone that then takes that particular team, create a system around them working on what has been painted, the vision, and implementing it. But also, right, I think we need managers who are great leaders, and we need great leaders who are also great managers. I do not think we essentially have to separate them from each other, because again, no minding how corporate lifestyle would require you to be more concerned about the goal, the business objectives. The greatest asset you would always have are still these people. And yes,
very sure.
You need to be a good leader more than being a good manager. I think you also need to be a good leader, pretty much.
All right, thank you very much. So I would like you to share a particular experience during the course of your leadership that actually stood out, that you feel people can actually learn from.
Okay, so I would say that I would like to share the most challenging.
Okay.
The most challenging. And I would always tell people that if you're someone who is interested in leadership or management, it's cool, right? But wait till you lead a political team. Wait till you are in a team of people who are very politically oriented. It seems as though you are in, and it seems as though it doesn't mix. I'm a big fan of politics. I believe that politics wields a lot of power to influence people's life and achieve goals. And that's pretty much why I'm really interested in politics. And I've had the opportunity to hold a few political positions. And for someone who has had corporate experience, going into politics, I took my corporate leadership experience into it. And it was a very different ball game, right? You see people advocating for, and you are like, how are you not getting this? I mean, this seems so clear. This is what we should do. But politics has a lot to do with interest, people's biases, and all of that. And I started to learn that, well, even when you want to achieve a goal, you would come to points where you'd be confronted with to work with very hard people. I mean, very difficult people to manage. People, while they see the goal, are not concerned about achieving it. And as a leader, you would still have to be able to make compromises, be able to put things in place. I mean, when it comes to politics, you also have to play the politics to be able to achieve the goals, to put a story to it. So let's assume, I'm just using this as an assumption, right? Yeah, it happens, but this particular one is just fictional. So we have a meeting. I have taken information about what's our next line of action. I've been able to evaluate this is the best thing for us to do. Because I know that if I go into that meeting directly to say, this is what we should do, it will come with a lot of resistance. Not because that idea is not great, but because these guys just want to be politicians.
Yeah.
They just want to be political people. So I've had to do a lot of background work of calling people to say, what do you think about this? Trying to get their opinions, trying to make them see, trying to make some of those compromises before we get into the meeting. I mean, very sincerely, I'm counting the numbers already. Oh, Mr. A is in support, Mr. B is in support. So by the time we get into the meeting, I know that if it comes to who is in support, say I.
Already have some people.
I already have enough people to be able to support, yeah. And I think that pretty much also affects the way we see leadership, right? We would have to work with very difficult people at times. At times, we might have the best plans. And I always say also that as leaders, we should always learn to admit that we don't always have the best plans. You know, as leaders, we often believe that my ideas are the best. And oftentimes I tell myself, I say, I love to be wrong. And very sincerely, I love to be wrong. I mean, because I think my ideas are very great, when I am wrong, it humbles me. And I think that's a learning curve for every one of us. I mean, to always know we can also be wrong, right? But yeah, pretty much the biggest challenge I faced around leadership was leading a political team. And it taught me a lot of lessons around compromise, around also politics, around being able to be, as a leader also, you have to learn great communication skills.
Yeah.
I mean, across board, ability to persuade people and all of that, pretty much.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I think the highlight from the things that you just mentioned is, you being a leader, you have to be able to learn how to understand different people, because people are not the same.
Sure.
You have diverse set of people, and there are some people that are going to be difficult. There are some people that are going to be easy.
Sure.
And also, I think one thing I can also pick out from there is the aspect of emotional intelligence. So I want to ask you, what is your take on emotional intelligence in terms of leadership?
Well, I think it is no brainer. Beyond intelligence quotient, IQ, I think for someone who wants to be a leader, you have to be highly emotionally intelligent.
Sure.
When I'm speaking to people as a leader, I'm taking real-time feedbacks on their facial expressions, their gesticulations, the feedbacks they are giving to what I'm saying. Because those things matter, and those things would further affect the next word that comes from my mouth. Because the next word can lead to them stoning you. I mean, you are talking to people that are probably agitated over something, and you are trying to pass across maybe the company's view about that particular thing. You have to be highly intelligent, right? You don't just want to think, oh, I understand the business part to this. I understand how things should go. And yeah, I think people would even rather deal with highly emotionally intelligent people than people who are just highly intelligent. I mean, intelligence-wise, right? Because people get to be able to relate with people who are more emotionally intelligent better. So emotional intelligence is a no-brainer for anyone who will be a leader, because you have to work with people. And beyond thinking with their heads, people think with their hearts first. So they entreat things with emotion more than they entreat things with logic.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So I wrote some things down. They're like some thoughts that I just want to hear your opinions about. Now, the first one is, this one is even personal. So personally, I believe that people refuse to get into leadership because they do not know what leadership is all about. So most people see leadership as being in a position. And that is why they just decide not to get into it, just neglect everything that has to do with leadership. So what can you say about this? And what do you think can be done to make people actually come to the light of what leadership truly is?
So first, I think it is a narrative that needs to be destroyed, because I think leadership has nothing to do with positions, right?
Yes.
I've seen great organizations. I've worked with great teams. I've been in great gatherings that I've seen that the best of leaders in this sect are people who hold no positions. I mean, they have no position. Nothing puts them at a pedestal that says, oh, I am head of this team, I am head of that. But you'd often notice that this sect of people are individuals that before any decision is being made, even the leaders try to consult them. When you identify people like that, they are leaders. It doesn't matter whether they have positions or not. They are leaders. And that's a first myth to dispel, right? Leadership has nothing to do with positions. Leadership has to do with the ability to positively impact people, to be able to have positive influence on people. And how do I think people can get to understand leadership more properly? I think it comes from a sense of responsibility. The worst sort of people to make leaders, in my opinion, are irresponsible people.
Yeah.
And when I say responsible people, are people that do not want to take responsibility for any action.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, responsibility comes from I see a problem. I have all it takes to be able to solve this problem. Why don't I just do it? And that is how we identify great leaders, right?
Mm.
I mean, the very first time I was within the four walls of a tertiary institution, I was in a class and we had waited for almost like 3 hours. There was no lecturer coming forth. And it was as though we're just going to continue to make noise and all of that. So they had just elected head of class and all of that.
Okay.
And everybody went to sit down and the noise continued. And after about 3 hours, I stood up and went to the front of the class and I was like, I think we are not going to get a lecturer. I think let us do something. And I brought out, very funny me. I brought out a few textbooks that I've gotten from a senior before I came to the school. And I was like, let's start reading this. I mean, let's start talking about this. And I stood in front of the class and I started teaching the class. And that one act got me someone who I would say is sort of my closest friend today. At first, she did not like it. She was like, who is this very proud? Because you are coming to the class for the first time. I too know, God bless you. You are coming to the class for the first time and you think the right thing to do is to come and teach people. And I was just like this. Like I was very small compared to a number of other guys in the class. That was far back when I was in the Polytechnic. But today, when I look back at that and when she also recounts that experience, it shows leadership, right? There was a problem. There was all the capacity to solve the problem. And we just needed someone to take up the responsibility to solve the problem. So learning curve for people who are aspiring to be leaders will be taking responsibility. And what you need to take responsibility is always around you. I mean, they might come very little. It might just be there is a waste around you that you can take care of. Do. That is you being a good leader. There is someone you could speak to that you think would change positively. Please do. That's being a good leader. I mean, there is something you could advocate for, a good cause. You do not need to get paid for it or whatsoever. I mean, these are things that show leadership, responsibility at its core.
Yes, very true. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so to the next one. It says that transparency can harm trust. Sharing every detail might overwhelm or discourage a team rather than build trust. Do you think this particular statement is true?
I think it is true. So I listened to quite a number of people, but I listened to Simon Sinek say something one time, right? And he says, it is good to say the truth. I would advocate that you always say the truth, but you don't have to say that truth now.
Okay.
So I'll give an example, right? I am your friend. We are just finished this podcast. And you asked me, how did that go? It might have gone very horribly. And immediately you asked me, I was like, that was so horrible. I think you should not try it again. You can imagine what that would do to you.
True.
I mean, but I could tell you, I think you did your best. I've not lied, right?
Yeah.
I think that there might be some improvements that you could work on. But overall, I think that, yeah, it was a good one, but there are room for improvement. Maybe 5 days later, after the emotions are down, I could then call you to say, I think these are some things that I observed that you can work on.
Okay.
I have been transparent.
Right.
I have been true, but I understood how to delay it. And that is why I think that statement is true, right? All of the information at the moment might break a thing. There are many times I've had to have privileged information that I know that if I release this information now, that's the end, right? But I would allow the team continue work, probably see how I can resolve it. Also, there is a very sensitive part to that. I mean, you should know when to draw the line.
Yeah.
It should not be bordering on for instance, let's say the company is going into bankruptcy. You'll not be able to pay these people, let's say for the next 2 years, and you've been knowing them for almost a year, and you're considering lying to them because you think that I would not. I think there are very clear lines
Yeah.
that needs to be drawn. But also, right, it is good to be transparent as a leader, but we need to understand when to release certain information also, because they do really matter.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I also think that is also where emotional intelligence comes into.
Very true.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, sir. So to the next one, it says that loyalty to employees is overrated. Great leaders make tough decisions, even if it means letting loyal employees go. What can you say about that?
That's a very sensitive one. And first, I agree that great leaders make, and yeah, being a leader means making the tough decisions. I mean, being a leader means taking the tough decisions. But first, I think loyalty to employees cannot be overemphasized. There is this saying in corporate world. People will say your employer does not care about you. I'm sure you will have heard about that. They will say management does not care about you. So if you have the opportunity to also throw a blow at management, do it freely. I'm sure you'd have seen a lot of those memes. HR sent me a message this morning, me on my flight to Canada, telling her I'm on my way. All of those things.
Yeah.
But first, I think that loyalty to employees cannot be overemphasized. I think it is not overrated. But again, where to draw the line is, as a manager, as a leader, you cannot be loyal to your employees at the expense of the goal, at the expense of the objective, at the expense of the mission. And that is pretty much where to draw the line. And those are really the tough decisions to be made as leaders, right?
Yeah.
As leaders, you have to care about people truly, but the moment these persons then stand in the way of realization of these goals,
Okay.
you have to understand how to then handle these issues. I mean, this person might have been a very loyal employee, but this person currently cannot deliver their work as they ought to, which stands in the way of the organization's goal. It is a hard decision to make.
Correct.
It is an hard call, but it has to be made, because pretty much soon, if you don't, there will be no company again.
Yeah.
There will be no organization for anybody to manage again. And that would impact. That's not a utilitarian perspective to say remove one person to save 100 people. But yeah, pretty much we have to be more loyal to the mission, loyal to the objective, than we are to anybody. And I do not say this to just employees. I mean to everybody. We have to be loyal to the goals than anybody.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So, to the last question I'm just going to be asking you, which I ask everyone that's come on this podcast to speak.
Okay.
And the question is, what advice or advices do you have for emerging leaders? based on your experience?
If I'm going to think about it so deeply, I think it should be three things.
Okay.
Number one is people. Number two is people, and number three is speaking. Yeah, because I think that for all you do as a leader, for all you will become as a leader, for all you would have capacity to achieve as a leader, it all depends on people. It depends on how well you relate with these people, how well you've been able to build these people in terms of capacity, how well these people trust you. Because again, that's something people want to know. Yes, this leader do care about us. And that is when people get to give themselves to things, right? And I think, yeah, pretty much that is it. Apostle Joseph Selman will say, whatever money can buy, relationship can pay for it. And that is people.
Sure.
That is people.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
So we have come to the end of this wonderful episode. I believe that you have all learned a lot from our speaker, just like I did. Thank you so much for honoring my invitation. I really appreciate it. All right. So if you really, really learned a lot, I just want you to go down and click on the subscribe button and subscribe to this channel. All right. And if you have any question, you can drop it on the comment section. Thank you so much for having me.
Beyond Pointers, learning leadership through storytelling. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.